Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to our last set of the day here on the PS4 sides of things. Usually in the PCL, we'll show some Xbox games as well, but those were not available. And so it's now for our fourth set here, the Onii-Chaners. And quick trivia question. Do you know where that's from? You know the phrase where that's from? What type of culture that's
Thank you for making that easier the last second for me. Is it an anime reference?
It is an anime reference. How did you know?
I don't know.
How did you know? You're such a cultured man.
Is that from a specific show?
No. It's like a.
Because the emote's like a little. It's like a girl with like a wrench
brother.
arm or
I think it's
something.
like I think it means like Big Brother.
Oh really?
Yeah. Like and anime girls say like Onii-Chan, like in an endearing way, kind of like to either a Big Brother figure or
someone they look up to.
It's a very common thing. The little sister, big brother kind of vibe in Japan and anime is very common.
The more you know.
The more you know. With Rain Day and Pretty Hair, we've got the maps coming through for the Onii-Chaners and their competitors today, as we will take a look at what Game Over has decided to ban. It's actually Ascension Peak. Bright Marsh banned pretty much the entire day and picked. Unbelievable.
Such a game over move.
I mean, what a game over move.
We don't care that you banned
You're
it.
gonna
I'm
ban
picking it anyway.
We're gonna pick it
Losers.
anyway. I mean, we've all had that friend, right?
Yeah. Taking my kickball and going home.
Yeah, we might still have that friend. And hopefully he's not watching with you. Frog Isle is actually banned, so Bright Marsh will get seen today.
Let's go.
Which is nice. So we're getting some variety on the maps. We've seen a lot of Frog Isle, some Jaguar Falls.
Yeah.
As well.
Well, let's get it then. Let us get it.
A couple of extra syllables in that one, I think.
Really roll.
Let us get it.
Let us get it.
Started speaking Latin popular slang. Let us get it.
It's a dead language, right?
Titus Ascetitus. That would be a very funny name.
Titus Ascetitus.
Ascetitus.
You ever know anyone named Titus? I feel like that's a fringe name where you might, but you probably don't.
You're right. Titus,
it's not like you don't lose your mind at that name.
Around. Yeah.
You don't lose your mind at that name, but you're definitely like, huh.
You know, Titus Rayner could be my son's name. Incredible. And look at this.
Big
It's
Pog,
Koga, Big Pog, Onii-Chan, and the Onii-Chaners have grabbed the biggest brother of them all, but the one who's
weeb, dude. The biggest weeb in Paladins.
The biggest weeb in Paladins, Koga. All right.
Man.
Well, we got something exciting happening.
His card art even looks like more like anime than the rest of them.
It is a different style, obviously, different art direction since when a lot of these champions were put into the game, and a very staple style as well. So cool thing about this is, you know, with the rest of these lineups, Koga is probably a champion that is going to cost them some. It cost the Makoa, it cost the Grover. But they don't have the Genos as well because they prioritize the Willow. So how is this going to work? What are they aiming for in terms of helping this Koga succeed?
We'll have to see because, right, no Torvald coming through. He's banned out. And the conversation we had before we took our break and after the first set was this guy hopefully can stand on his own 2 feet, right?
Yeah.
That's my feels with him.
Yeah.
I don't know how crazy he's going to be. There's a lot of healing to get through and a lot of clumpiness. I think maybe that's why Game Over lets it go, right? Certain players will let, you know, back when it was like Makoa or whoever the big dog is, they'll let it go with a plan to build a composition that is hard for that big dog to crack.
Yeah, and you know what? I mean, you're talking about a really good composition for him to get in and get out of. There's not a lot of chase characters on Game Over to be able to deal with the Koga. The Zen, the closest to it, maybe a Void Grip, but everything that you're looking at, except maybe a Deep Roots Grover, except maybe the Cripple, is going to just allow Koga to essentially just dash away and create that space and then come back into the fight. One of the things about Koga that I find is really the most thing is he can just keep resetting fights. He's so slippery in terms of his kit naturally being able to be mobile.
And I mean, almost more so than a lot of characters in Paladins, Koga can be a completely different beast depending on how you build him, right?
Yes.
So that's why I'm really curious to see what direction this Koga will be taking.
And I do, as we, you know, take a look, obviously first Koga, I'm curious if Mixer thinks that is going to be the winning factor here and which team will take the win, so go ahead and vote for that right now. The bigger thing for me is I do think that there's been kind of an established Koga build that has achieved success, and I think I will expect to see here having to do with Adrenaline Junkie or Master of Arms. Those two talents seem to be the ones that have stood out the most Several cards as well. Talking about surprise, dashing, regenerating almost your entire clip back.
I know, man. It's
tenacious as well, healing during your shadow step. Trigger happy, a very winning and also I think a very important card.
It's funny, right? Because that's kind of what I've seen be a very safe way to do it with Koga, and it's going to be Massive Arms, so successful hits not costing ammo for Swiper the One on Koga, but I want to look at his loadout as well.
Absolutely.
With that build, it's almost like you're only using one ability. You're shooting and shadow stepping.
Yeah.
But it is so damn fun.
Wow. So a lot of Raw Talent and Trespasser, really interesting that he would go into these cards. And to me, I don't know if I agree with him at the outset, but I see what he's attempting to do.
He just wants to shoot.
He just wants to shoot. So trigger happy. And something to prove, 2 staple cards as well for Koga. Something to prove being that extra little energy once you fall below 50% health. Tommy Jet going down early. Swiper the One looking to find some damage. And at this point, though, he's going to have to dash away. He is under pressure as we speak.
I would have expected something like this when you have like a Genos healing you.
Absolutely.
When you have more ever-present healing. Right now, Onii-Chaners, they only have Saris. They don't even have a way to break line of sight with their heals. I mean, they're a little bit limited there. So Swiper diving into the back line, gets onto Genos, but Genos a slippery man in his own right, especially with a Grover attached to him.
And you can see why he's opted away from those ammo cards, because he doesn't really need it with Master of Arms. That's one of the benefits of this talent. And of course, the agility of the jump, some of those raw talent kind of cards that are in there, giving him the pure, raw athleticism that maybe a Koga would need to succeed here.
And I mean, it
is working.
Game over. They did their best, I feel, to counter draft a very, very popular flanker, you know, with 3 healers.
Wow.
There's a lot of support. You're technically still hitting your shots when you're shooting a shield, so he can just go right on through it.
I mean, this is just, you're showing the ability for him to target these champions. Having a little bit of trouble staying with the Grok. He's got the dashes as well. Has he built up his ultimate? That's the question. 92%. This could be devastating if he can find that. Swiper the One does go for the aggressive play. 99%. He's got it now. This is going to turn the tide if he can stay alive and just use it. He's going to clean up the Genos by himself. And now Makoa, Zen, they all fall to Koga, who finds his revenge on his former teacher.
Oh my. Let's take a look at the damage charts. Let's see the damage here. And a little bit out in front of his old master.
Yeah.
Of his old, would you say, Onii-Chan?
Onii-Chan, that's right. I don't know if he would use that to describe the Zen, but hey, I think maybe as a collective third party, we might be able to say that's the case. Swiper the One showing off his Master of Arms Koga style, and I think it is going to be, like you said, more of a personality style choice for how these players decide to augment their Koga, more so than most damage champions that exist in Paladins at the moment.
Time and space comes through, but I don't believe it will find a connection. The guillotine comes through. The spite, excuse me, doesn't find the kill either, but they'll clean it up eventually. Tommy Jet really out of options here, so he just goes ham.
Oh!
And my goodness.
Nice hook.
His fate is not his own, as he gets thrown off one of like 3 spots in Bright Marsh. You can actually do that.
And that's pretty impressive for the Makoa, because you got to jump, stay on the ledge, turn around, find the hook, rotate again, all on a controller. That is not an easy thing to do. It's not even easy on PC. So some excellent play there. Willow goes into the Fade Flight. Will go down. Vengeance will fall as well to Tommy Jet. And the other Shutter, player we've seen for quite a while, will help to find the kills here.
Makoa does as well. Those 2 picks right there, that's the momentum shift right there. When you win a fight and you go out to zone, but you get overzealous, especially against a team, you know, like the Onii-Chaners. They're really in a good spot so far, so good on this map. They have a more balanced composition, I will say. It feels like Game Over's composition was really panicking about this Koga.
Absolutely, and I mean, you let it go first pick, and maybe it's just showing that Game Over haven't been in the same scrims.
Panic's not the right word. I don't really like that word. That's the one that's what they thought was the right way to beat this thing, but it really still, I mean, he didn't have any problems just laying on the trigger the whole time.
Yeah, and I mean, I would go to say that because Game Over has some newer names, that they're not as in the scrim scene as, you know, Swiper and the rest of these guys, like the other Shutter. It is possible that with the teams that we've seen that are veterans that have been maybe playing a little longer, maybe have communication between one another, at this point are all having the same idea, which is just ban Koga no matter what. Ball and Berry, one of my favorites. He's trying to stay balling on this Grover, but having a difficult time doing it, especially dealing with the Koga. It seems like that's really the thing that they've got to find an answer for this round.
How will it be different this time around? Swiper's got his ultimate. It was honestly, I mean, he's doing so much damage, but that's a slow charger. I mean, he put out 20K and got it charged like at the end of all of that fighting.
Yeah. No, it's not. It's not going to be a crazy
not used to
charge
that.
here. Grok flying up in the air. It is a fun thing to see.
Gore brought something up. He said, I want to see a Grok like chase down a Willow in the sky with his ult. And I was like, dude, I would give so much money, but oh man.
Wow.
Without even having to have Wrecker though, this is going to be an interesting thing to watch with Koga because no flanker is really great at dealing with shields. No flanker loves to buy Wrecker. Koga might be the guy that doesn't have to.
I mean, there is a version of life where maybe we see Koga.
But it's not increased damage to shields, but it's like you're not going to miss a shot on a shield.
No, exactly.
You just get infinite ammo against shield.
Exactly. And so that's going to be a really, that's going to be a very interesting kind of dynamic. I mean, I don't know if we'll see Koga next game. It's been fun to see him now. But boy, oh boy, I mean, game over. Any more apt way to describe what's happening to them?
They're getting sliced and diced, and he hasn't even gone into claw stance yet.
Oh, that's a good one.
So, and that's the way I think we might see Koga stay. It just feels like the submachine guns and the cards attached are a little bit safer. The claw stuff is viable. It's just more all in. It's just riskier. And it doesn't seem necessary.
I mean, I'm gonna really, I don't know. I want to see these guys experiment. I'd love to see some people try every single legendary of his. You have a little bit of time to experiment here in the earlier parts of these seasons, but yeah, Adrenaline Junkie Master of Arms I think is where people are going to stand and stay comfortably, and I think it's going to be a preference style. I've seen a lot of people go different directions as the Whirlwind, pretty much the last hope for game over as it looks more and more like a game end approaching us with 1:26 left on the push. I'll probably only need a few of those seconds as it's a 3-0, close to a 4-0 with Makoa and the Ancient Rage, the last thing standing in their way. Or he's not even going to use it.
Just for good measure.
Koga.
Yeah.
One pick, one win.
100% infallible. And and the rest of that comp was just so rock solid. If they ever made it onto the objective, game over, did not have an easy road from there on out. If they managed to get past or pick the Koga, because we saw a little bit of that, right? Swiper's very first engagement wasn't really that effective. He just had to run away, right? And that was really the only time we saw game over get in there and, make a little bit of elbow room for themselves on the point.
Yeah. I also think, Swiper, listen, 3 points into just 12% extra move speed, I don't like it. I think it's not a good use of your points. I think you can buy number 1 and be okay. I think there's so many other cards that are much better for Koga personally. I'd rather you put more into something to prove. 20% isn't a full bar yet. 30% actually is a full bar, so you get an extra dash guaranteed. At least put 1 point into there, go to 8% movement speed. Some improvement, but overall Koga, and he doesn't really, it doesn't matter.
I don't like it just because I'm old and I've played with 5% per point movement speed cards, so it's hard for me
still champions
to spend that money on 3% or 4%.
Exactly. So. It's not a buyer's market right now.
Well, maybe the question I would have is because the characters have, albeit very slightly different base movement speeds, so a lower percentage could end up putting Koga in the same spot as like Shaolin, right, with 10% movement speed, Koga with 8. Would end up in the same spot. I'd be curious to do the math there. I haven't, unfortunately, but that's my only thing that could maybe save that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Onii-Chan taking this one, the Onii-Chaners, taking it very, very convincingly, and in map 2 now, Stone Keep, there will be the question of do we ban Koga? I mean, 4 bans now. And I don't know if Onii-Chaners will do it. They will not be first pick. So it goes to reason that they may, understanding how powerful Koga is, ban it themselves.
And even on Bright Marsh, you don't get to see him really put it on display, but wall climbing on a map like Stone Keep, and you can just get right up to the balcony as a flanker and not having to burn a cooldown for it either. I mean, that's a lot of good things going for you. Game over. They take him off the board.
Well, now it's a totally different game because Koga was just such a staple, and he controlled the pacing and the flow of that match. Drogo's here maybe has the opportunity to control the pace of this match, but Grover in response for the Onii-Chaners, taking away what Ballenberry had opted for last round. We haven't seen the deep roots yet. I guess Efflorescence still something that people consider to be the best by far for Grover.
It's been killing it today, though. It really has. I mean,
keeping up, beating.
We saw, right, he doubled that Furia, but we was like, oh, maybe it was because of Leon. And then Gore and I just casted the game on Frog Eye, where he was still doubling it with no Leon in the game, no Cauterize online, because it was like round 1. He was like 45 when every other healer was about 20. So
crazy, man.
If you're just clumped up and leveraging the character and the legendary in the right way, it's very effective.
And it's a great thing for Terminus because, you know, you can block the damage that will give you that space to be non-cauterized because you need that burst heal to get its max effectiveness. It's still got that passive healing, which is what puts him over the edge, but against the Genos Furia, he's now got to deal with some shielding. He's now got to deal with 2 sources of healing.
Yeah.
And to combat that, they'll add 2 sources of healing to their team, make it a con.
A lot, right. You've got Battle Shout, you've got Recovery, right? And then hopefully Grover fills in the gaps. So there is a lot of sustain and just mitigation overall for the Onii-Chaners, meaning every one of these players, and this tends to work out very good for compositions and rosters that are just experienced. When people can just look after themselves and just win like 1v1s and spread the map out, that type of composition is going to do very well for them.
So who do you think will win game number 2? Will the Onii-Chaners take it 2-0 even without Koga? Or will we see a best of 3 on the horizon if Game Over can make it game over here in game 2 on Stone Keep? Loading up on the map very soon, and we'll get into the action. I'm curious to see how this will unfold because it is so much momentum, I think, that Onii-Chaners are going into this game with. After a 4-0 on Bright Marsh, granted they had the new hotness. That was Koga. We'll have to see how Swiper the One is able to adjust, and, you know, Swiper, longtime EU player, so we'll have to see if he sticks it out here in North America. I guess he has to play on ping unless he diggy-dogged himself over to someone's basement in North America. Well, with the inability for him to travel for a LAN, I would say that's a highly improbable situation. Unless this was something that was coming before LAN. He's laid it all on the line. He's here illegally to play in the PCL. I mean, I gotta say, there are moments where you look back at situations and it becomes a lot clearer now that you see it. You know, not being able to make those 2 lands, now playing on a different team. I don't know. Sometimes. It's happened before, right? With good play, like Sun Commander, for instance. Yeah. Great player, just couldn't make the land. Man, I haven't heard that name in a long time. Sometimes you just got to draw the line. Onii-Chaners with an 80% poll result, so you guys think that they're going to get the W? Well, we'll see what happens. Onii-Chaners here, starting off relatively strong, finding a kill into Drogos, which was the first pick for Game Over. So that's not exactly promising. And Vivian just ripping away here. Haven't been able to deal with any of these frontliners just yet. Finally gets one down. Meanwhile, 2 other kills have fallen. Onii-Chaners 3-4-0, 42% on the objective, and away they go. And I mean, the other Shutter and the rest of these console lads, from a damage carry perspective, really loving themselves in Vivian. And you don't see this in PC very often. No. You know, but it would be interesting to see if she still has the same impact. I mean, you're talking about a difference in movement, but you're not talking about a difference in just what champions do. I mean, they're showing the value. Reload your shotgun completely, boy. You're triggering me real hard right now. Does get the headshot to put Peacekeeper in the dirt. And Nara, not long for this world. Grover is keeping everyone nice and healthy and flamed by Furia. It doesn't necessarily matter here. The overtime still being contested, but I think I know which way it's going to end. Fallen Berry taken down as well. Tommy Jet finding that one, 99%, and that's going to turn into 100. Here's the overpower, and this is just going to keep the momentum flowing, and he's letting his teammates shoot her, but he just better throw her off. I mean, waste of time, waste of everybody's effort. At least he gets the farming ult charge. Farming ult charge. Not a bad call. Not a bad call. That is true. Man, what's your time worth though? You know, how long can you spend farming ult charge? Ooh. Try to get cute with the fire spit over the con shield. No dice today. Tommy Jet maintaining control of the high ground here. Walling off Terminus. Will it accomplish much? Grover can heal right through line of sight, as you saw. Atomic Boom's HP just juiced right back up to full. And still walking it down mid lane here. Vivian getting it done. I mean, those changes are really what's put Grover and Pip into these like kind of next level potential in terms of healing, though through the walls kind of a thing. It's so potent, and it really just means that AoE presence they have is always felt. And so you kind of got to go around. You can't let these obstacles treat you. Hold you down. Yeah, hold you down. Don't let line of sight break you. don't break line of sight. Unless...
You did it. You got it.
Yeah.
Proud of you.
There it is, especially if you want to kill.
On a Monday, no less. You got it.
Yeah. And it's
still sharp, ladies and gentlemen.
It's not been a...
After a month off on a Monday, doesn't matter.
It's not been a slow weekend either, I will say that.
No sirree, Bob.
No sirree, Bob.
Or Barry, or should I say.
No sirree, Jacob. Why are we, you know...
Ballin' Barry.
Why are, no sirree, Barry.
15 seconds.
Full of balls or goose eggs, you might say. Plenty of zeros over there for game over. Not a single kill. And by consequence, not a single assist
either.
Are
balls and goose eggs now synonymous? Are they interchangeable? Is that what you just are claiming with that offhanded comment?
Goose-get ball.
If I'm ever going to play an esketball, I'll do basketball, and then goose-get-ball is number 2. I'll give
so
you
we
that.
get to make a crappy low-budget movie about it, right?
Exactly.
Well, thank God I thought of it first. Stay far away, Trey Parker and Matt Stone.
That's right. You get all the royalties. Tommy Jet on a 9 streak. Now make it a 10. He's going to do a nice commander's grab off the ledge, just puts him out of line of sight of the damage from game over. And they're going to have to retreat anyways. They've lost Fernando, Inara, Seismic Crash no more. It's really the Drogo's Dragon Punch they're going to be using. Oh boy, but I think that's the Drogos who just got overpowered.
Yeah, he sure did. He got brought all the way out of...
Be proactive. I like that.
Out of position there. Inara, she makes it there, but right now no one's there to support her, and she's just struggling on the objective all by herself. Furia is in line of sight, but the sustain is not enough to keep Drizzy Diaz up on his feet.
And where to Guap? I mean, both simultaneously asking and I think answering the question. Because he is green, he's mean, he's lean, and he's a healing machine. If we can take a look at those numbers, I definitely got to say there's no extra fat on that. All the essential oils.
Still doubling. Grover's had a good-ass day today on console, I'll tell you what. He's been the king of the castle. Stone Keep, Frog, Isle, Jack Falls, doesn't matter. And I wonder if he's doing more damage.
Might be. You know, there's a lot of an outcry on the burning of a tree. And
Furia's top damage in this game?
Wow, 40,000 damage for a Furia. Beating the buck.
On a game where you're just getting bodied, too. That's actually kind of nuts.
It's Ball and Barry.
It is Ball and Barry.
I mean, this guy.
You are correct.
You gotta respect the fact that he's gonna ball out no matter what. That's the thing about Barry.
It's in the name.
It's in the name. I think you might have just created his slogan there, Nick.
It's all in the name.
It's Barry. It's in the name. It's kind of like EA Games, but you know, not
Be Barry Sports. It's in the name.
Ballin' Barry Sports. We did a California Surfer version of that as well. 3-0, looking like it's going to be a 4 as we flash back to reality. Barry still getting that top damage mark up. Peacekeeper, he's going to get juked out. Atomic Boom still alive and well. The Onii-Chaners, 4 players on basically double-digit streaks, and the Gurk at the end to let him know that this is over.
Yeah, that's got to be one of the best names for those crappy art sprays.
Gurk.
What is it? Inara and Gurk. Or were those the only 2 that made it in?
No,
can't remember.
Inara, Gurk. There's the Moji one, Moji and Friends.
There's a Barrack one too. Isn't
yeah.
He's in like the Leon dress.
Yeah, he's in the Barrack.
Oh man,
in the sundress.
Good times.
I don't know what that was called. And then there's the Androxus one.
The light and the darkness.
Yeah.
The crappy art sprays.
Well, you know, sometimes you have to brave the dark in order to get to the light.
Yeah.
That's what happened with us in that time period. We made it back. Paladins had a great weekend, you know, still doing great in concurrent players. And for those of you joining us on the broadcast, we do appreciate it. I mean, here on Mixer and, of course, live.skillshot.com, we have great opportunities to, you know, see these new things coming into action. I know some people didn't even realize that Paladins Esports was kicking off again this week. It's just been such a kind of a long break, I think, for a lot of us that it may be catching some people off guard and having to get back into the rhythm of tuning in every day.
It's going to be fun. We've got a whole really different vibe on this year, right? HRX normally first weekend in January. It'll be the last week or the second to last weekend in November.
Crazy.
Just after Thanksgiving or just before Thanksgiving,
right before.
So get your tickets now, hrx.com. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I can't wait to be there. I can't wait to go to the after party. It's, you know, it's going to be a good time.
Yeah, 16th through the 18th, and you know, the competition leading up beforehand will, you know, almost at the end of October, you can kind of start saying it's HRX time.
Right.
So it's August 27th. So it's really September and October. That's it.
This is the split. The fall split is really what determines
That's it.
Who's coming and who's going to be competing, the seeding, all that good stuff for HRX. We're going to have a lot of teams in the HRX space, in the competition this year. It's going to be really crazy and kind of something never before done.
Yeah. So there's a lot of excitement. I think it's going to start building as we continue, and it will be a slow burn because you don't want to boil and basically pop, so to speak, before the actual final weekend. But I do think that there's going to be a really, really nice slow burn happening. And speaking of slow burns, here it starts, week 1, but plenty of weeks to go. Vex Gaming, Zimmer Frame starting off a little hotter than their competitors in Flashpoint and Brutal Fisher, absolutely already on fire. How far up can they go? I mean, after that, I'm not sure. Onii-Chaners and Elevate looking unstoppable as well with Curse These Hands and Onslaught looking good themselves.
I like that name. A lot of good names here. Also, some not so good names, in my opinion.
Also, some not so good.
Not so great names. I won't point any fingers.
Was that Vampire Lord?
I'm going to save that for the after show.
Okay, for the after show. That's right. So we've got a great new show called Gather Round. And we're going to be talking all about today in the console series. We're going to relax a little bit, maybe take the jackets off, loosen the ties, and just discuss Paladins Esports, what we thought about today, and something you can expect as a mixed reviewer for these PCL broadcasts in the future. So we'll take a quick break. In about a couple minutes, we'll see you over at the roundtable.
And then he's just like,
hey,
nah.
everybody, welcome to Gather Round, the ending for today's console league. My name is Gormizer. Again, we're going to have Rain Day and Pretty Hair here as we go over today's games. But the first thing I want to talk about is, where is Bomb King from? Because that accent was pretty thick.
He's a thick boy, I gotta say.
He was made sentient on Long Island.
That's right.
And that was the first.
Made sentient
it's like the
on
first
Long
thing he
Island.
heard.
Aliens from that.
So it's
place.
confirmed that
that.
Long Island is in the realm?
Yeah.
I mean, how else could you have people like him?
The realm embodiment of Long Island.
Exactly.
The realm version of Long Island.
Exactly.
But today we had 4 sets. They were all PS4. And a couple of them, I think, went exactly as we expected. And the first one was actually Flashpoint and Cyclone. And this one did not go the way I expected in terms of longevity. It was long.
It was a very long set. Like it was almost numbingly long for what was happening, because it was just a 2-0, and you were just thinking, have I lost track of what's happening in this game? But it was the same mistakes that Flashpoint made. And to me, when you make the same mistakes over and over again, you have to start looking at it as a greater perspective for your team and be like, at LAN, guys, these are some of our issues. We start poorly. And it worked well the first LAN, but the second LAN, they got punished.
Yeah.
So how do you guys think, because this is a console league now, right? It's not the console series anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be consistent.
We're done with that.
In terms of who's playing who.
Left it behind.
By the way, tune into the PGS tomorrow. No, but, we've got, like you said, your teams that are more recognizable. They've been around longer. And I feel like for these newer teams, it's almost harder to come up when you don't have that consistent practice, that consistent, I'm playing against good teams, right? Maybe they're signing up in week 3 every single phase, and we don't want to do that, right? We're not comfortable enough to do that. But now, if you make the cut to get in the league, you get that consistent play every single week in and week out. So hopefully we don't have these blowouts by the end of it.
Yeah, I'm actually thinking this is one of those cases, and we've seen it in the past. A league format, especially with the way things have gone, it kind of makes me think of like LATAM and Brazil. Like if you have one team that is always just trashing people, once you put it in a league, every one of those 4 teams, 5 teams, 6 teams, however many, start to get to that level because the gap just closes. You're playing them so often, so much that you get to know them well.
Yeah, I mean, the league structure is good. I like the way that we've started to add, just the similarities to more traditional leagues, and where you're playing your teams. You have a certain length of a season. You have these splits, and that's just going to improve what we have. I mean, the bigger question that you have to ask yourself is, do we want more teams in, and obviously less consistent competition, but more opportunity. But I like that, as a Paladins keeps evolving as a game, it keeps evolving as an esport. I think that's important.
Yeah. Opportunity, I think, is the key word. Because like a lot of the players, and I think this goes for Flashpoint as well, considering they didn't have Swiper playing with him. He was playing on a different team this week.
Yeah, what was that?
Like opportunities galore. Like everyone's just making new teams all the time.
Swiper can't get his butt out of a car to the airport, but he could somehow play cross region. I'm just curious how this all went down.
Playing on ping too, right? So he's got to be doing that because he are on the NA games, right? They're going to be hosted on the NA servers. hasn't been locked to hit scan, right? He's played projectile for his teams in the past. So now the fact that he's playing hit scan might be something that he just has to do if he's going to play cross region like that.
Yeah.
When he gets to LAN, it doesn't matter. And maybe that's just what he's looking to do.
When he gets to LAN, he's never been to LAN.
He apparently has actually been moved to North America. So he is now in NA, playing for an NA team. And admittedly, when it comes down to it, it makes it a lot easier to get to LAN.
Did you find that out during the broadcast today?
So, you know,
I literally just now came in my ear. They were like, by the way, this is where Swiper lives now.
Well, now it makes sense. I mean,
full address and everything.
And this is to get a guy who had been at our earlier LANs but has been not able to make one any time this year. He's a very talented player. He's been a carry player for ever since he's been in our scene, and it's good to see him now have the opportunity to not only be in the region that he's going to be traveling around most of the time to play in Paladins esports, but hopefully now have a second start, have an opportunity to qualify for HRX.
Do you think not having him on Flashpoint is like negative for them, or do you think that they, because like you two got to cast that set, do they still feel similar, or does it definitely feel like they've taken a hit?
That was, being that I don't know that team that they played super well, it's hard to say because they gave him like they gave him a run there. They lost like the first 3 in a row, and then they were able to capture 2 in a row, and then they were able to capture the last 2. So a little bit of figuring out. I'm sure there's a little bit of growing pains.
Yeah.
How much of that though? You know, they came back to LAN with that same roster without Swiper. They did okay, right? They didn't win, but they've shown that they can win without Swiper. So in the grand scheme of things, I don't think it slows them down necessarily.
I think you had a really weird spot where they were kind of championing the fact that Swiper was gone and fighting for him in that first LAN win. And, you know, that's where we saw a lot of what Legacy was doing.
Part of it.
It was just like, we did it for you. You know, it's like he almost giving his MVP trophy to Swiper. And you could tell he means a lot for that team. You could tell emotionally it will impact them. But as far as talent and play, they had the pieces there to do it without him once, right? They went farther than they have with, and no disrespect to him, without him there. And then the second time, they still did well. They didn't get where they wanted to go, but they still did well. So I think both team player, they're going to be better off for it in the end.
And with the way things went, it, again, like you said, looked kind of shaky. You can't really tell. Is Cyclone just really good, or is Flashpoint maybe having that growing pains, as you had said?
Yeah.
But the day, at least for EU, definitely seemed like just long games, because the second set as well was 6 minutes to finish the first round in both games.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it was like, okay, now we can pick up the pace. Or in the second game, it was, okay, this is going to take a lot more effort.
And how much of that is 1.4 too? I mean, how much of that is everyone having an idea and then that idea being met with reality of how you think? You know, you have a Tinder date, you think, oh man, this is gonna be great. But then you get there and you're like, shouldn't quite look exactly like I wanted, but let's make this work.
Those filters change a lot.
Appetizers are a little bit slower than the main course, you know? I don't know. It just felt like they were trying to. I was literally speaking about dinner. I was literally speaking about dinner to where you got to warm up to it. And I feel like that's what a lot of teams were doing.
So you were warming up your Tinder dates. Like you had, you know, the appetizer Tinder date for your main course.
Later. That's after dessert.
That's after dessert. Now, if I start talking about dessert, you know, we're talking about something else.
I feel like it's harder for a lower tier team to want to trend set against an Elevate or a Flashpoint, right? You know, I think. Yeah. You know, we've all had those games where you queue and you see who's on the other team, and you're not playing your game as much. You're playing a little bit more like aware of them and a little bit, not as assertive, I think, as you would need to blaze the path in 1.4.
Was there anything today that like stood out as like a very only 1 point? I mean, other than we got to see a Ying at 1 point, like anything that was very 1.4?
The Koga, man. I mean,
and it kind of did he even ult?
He didn't ult. The whole game.
Oh, man.
And so I think it's just, it's going to be a rough one for me, because I actually, want to get your guys' thoughts on this too, because I'm worried if Koga's an instant ban, for 100% ban, never played, then, you don't really get the opportunity to see a character like that in game and look at some of the balancing aspects, right? You do these kind of bigger, wide sweeping things, but you don't see it in action until the bans come through or the nerfs come through, and then he's out and you're like, oh, well, now he's kind of lackluster. It's rough. I don't want to see him instant ban the entire time, but at the same time, I think I understand why teams are doing it, because he's just very, very hard to counter right now.
It's almost like a perfect storm on console. A character like that who's got a lot of stuff that's easy enough to operate, and then just being that tracking hit scan character. That's the most far and away popular type of champion on console.
Yeah.
And for him to fill that gap perfectly with all the bells and whistles that come along with that kit, man, I don't know.
Yeah. It's definitely something I'm looking forward to. Like once the PPL kicks off, seeing where people try to put it, especially with a lot of the way the rosters have changed for those teams. who's going to pick up what.
Has
and how
PC?
I
don't think PC, from what I've seen, hasn't been talking as much about Koga as console.
I saw like one mention like a month ago.
I think PC's a little. I think we will see him this week in PC, but I think it will be in mostly the bans. I think he'll have an 80 to 90% ban rate throughout the entire week. But I just think that PC's a little more hush hush on what they do. I don't know. I feel like we're gonna see a draft, and all of a sudden
console boys are pretty rambunctious.
Whoa, yeah. Well, you know,
loud.
they're loud. Vuvuzelas. That's what I think when I think of console. Shout out to Blue Boy.
I wonder what he thinks about all this.
Our roundtable.
We should have him out.
I think this is gonna be called the console.
We don't have any corners.
Kitty corner.
Yeah, we don't have corners.
There's literally no corners.
There's no corners here, Blue Ball. It's all round.
No corners, buddy.
But
who would have thought corner being an insult at this point in time?
Not me.
2018.
Definitely didn't think corner would become the insult for the way things were going. But with the way things went, so we kind of went.
Stop trying to get us on track.
I'm trying to get you.
Stop hosting.
I'm being told to get on track. I would just let this run as much as I wanted to.
Just kidding.
But I have to do at least a little bit.
All right.
So set one, Flashpoint Cyclone. We kind of touched on it.
Yeah.
It was a lengthy one.
Yeah.
How do you really feel about that coming out? Because Cyclone to me looked a lot stronger, or maybe Flashpoint just didn't look as strong as they have in the past.
I don't know how and if this was kind of seeded, or if it could be seeded, right? Because it's the first day, first season of the first thing ever, right? So that felt like every map or matchup in NA felt kind of stompy, kind of like just steamrolly, right? And maybe that was just the way it was. Maybe this ends up being, the 1 and 2 seed in EU, right? They just came together in week 1. This ends up being we've had so many of those matchups where it's 2-0, 3-0. That doesn't quite tell the story of that matchups if they were all 20-minute, just 4-3 battles that just went the same way every time. Maybe it ends up being something like that.
And I think back to the first point I made, I think it's an emotional loss for the most part on the fact that Flashpoint is without Swiper. I mean, even when he wasn't there, they were calling him the day of. They were talking about strats. Yeah. He was a coach. He was a voice, and he was direction. And when you lose that, like a little kid moving out to, college for the first time, you don't have the parents watching over you. You make your own choices. There is a learning period. And so I think we just saw in round 1s for both games that they just have a learning period of like, all right, who's exactly calling here? How are we going to play this? And then they figured it out. They've got the talent still, but it was just that little aspect.
The feel for the team dynamic and try to go through. And one of the things that we had a bunch of replays for was actually the Inara throughout that set, and just the way that Flashpoint was able to kind of control things. And admittedly, I think Inara played a big role today, but
it was V Clax? No, iTick. Oh, yeah.
Not a lot of longevity to her normally long life.
Yeah.
Just constantly getting pushed off the map.
I mean,
constantly.
This is a triggering moment. This is definitely something that will stir up some anxiety, some past traumas, and, be forever a salty taste in her mouth this game.
It sucks, but you also have to be mindful of playing that doorway against Torvald.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Very, very banned out. I mean, in terms of this draft, she was just at a horrible situation with the con. It's the only front line. You saw Terminus had it happen to him on Frog Isle in our last game, and he just jumped back on with Shatterfall. And Ara happens to be the only tank that fills that super tanky role that has no form of movement aside from Torvald. But Torvald is not the super tank that you would assume that way. She just has no way to get around. So it's unfortunate.
I'm not sure there's anything that feels like, especially against that kind of composition, because you're against Torvald, who's going to push you off. You're against Khan, who's going to throw you off. Like, you're a Nara, you literally don't have a place where you feel like comfortable standing.
No home.
Unless you're sick at like 180 wall catching yourself.
Or mid-air seismic crashes.
Yeah.
Mid-air seismic crash?
Mid-air seismic crash.
Hot.
That's how I've seen it done before, but it's very difficult. The response time has to be so fast.
I think I would love to see that. Whether it's on console or PC.
I want to see what you were talking about. I want to see a Grok chase down a Willow.
Yeah. I want to see Grok chase down Willow, too.
In his ult.
Which, we haven't got to Grok, but that does kind of we can move forward, get closer to the Grok.
What's a good theme song for that? I'm thinking like Flight of the Valkyries or something, or like, but that's like too cliche.
Maybe Flight of the Bumblebee.
I want something.
So I guess that's still cliche.
So the Grok flight, man.
It doesn't feel like
we got to see like a cool usage of it, because we were talking about how like it's just such a fourth ability. It's like barely an ultimate at times because it charges so fast. You can just use it so liberally.
Yeah.
Being able to just fly over stuff or fly up to a place, like kind of like how with Xin.
Yeah.
Whereas like Xin ult, it's like in certain scenarios it can do its thing.
Just utility.
But most of the time you just want a utility. You want to get somewhere or do something very specific with it, right? So I mean that brings a whole lot to the table for Grok, and I wonder if that and combination with some of his legendary changes, all these things might pile up to get him picked on PC.
But keeping track of certain champions, Bomb King was actually the one for set number 2 that is the one in my head, because there were times, specifically I think in the second game when we were watching the Brutal Fisher, it was triple kills, and that's just opening up the door, made it so much easier for their team to find any lead. There was a point, I think, during the very last point, it's like 78% on the other side, and you're like, man, they are not looking too comfortable at being able to win this one.
Yeah, this guy was
and
on
it is Atomic just cleaning up.
Yeah, you know, I mean, Kultura's Red on the Androxus, the only Androxus we saw today, created a lot of space for him to play out of. And Atomic filled his role perfectly as the blaster showed up when he needed to be, hit around the corners. But for me, it was more of the showcase of the Androxus not quite being this, even with the new punch range, being as deadly as some champions wanted to do. It was really just a great counter out of the Inara Treacherous Ground that caught him in so many bad spots. That it was almost like the Inara versus the Khan and the Torvald in the game before. Just nothing I can really do about how this is shutting down the main component of my kit. But yeah.
Did he build for that, or did he still build like pretty standard?
I don't think we looked.
I don't think we looked at
I
that.
don't think we slowed out.
Yeah.
Which sucks because I really kind of want to know. Because I think on
there's
PC
like the
we've
card.
been seeing a lot of punch resets.
Yeah.
I mean, there's the one where if you hit it, you get your dashes back.
Yeah.
And then there's one where you get like a ton of health if you get a kill with it, though, which is like, those are like, there are some cards that are just too risky, I think. Right? You're not going to be leveraging that often enough.
I think dashes back, that card is extremely valuable. I think you're going to see that. And I mean, you might even see that in just entering into Androxus kits. I think you might see Elusive and Through the Warp drop down in some points, and some 2-3 point cards of that actually shifting into the decks. But I mean, they had the right idea. They had the Torvald. I mean, they had the Genos.
Just
couldn't do it.
I still liked Elusive and Through the Warp to get and keep me in range of punch.
Yeah.
Like the movement speed is super, super useful.
Yeah.
For sure, to like get and stay in.
Yeah.
But getting a full dash back, I mean, you don't need to dash farther when you dash infinitely, essentially.
Right.
And I don't know how the logic works. I've done it a couple of times, and I haven't seen a consistent result to where like you dash twice and then punch. Do you get them all back, or does it still have to go on cooldown before it gets reset? I've done it a couple times, but I felt like I've had moments, and maybe I'm just in my own head and I maybe missed the punch or something, where I felt like I should have got my dashes back and I didn't.
That is actually one thing.
So like how that logic is handled is going to be really important.
Watching it, it's very difficult to tell who's in range and where exactly, like if you're getting hit by that. And I feel like that's because I know we were mentioning that, like maybe having some sort of marker, visual something to give you a visual indicator, because otherwise, I mean, you could throw out a punch and it's like they're just outside that distance. You're like, man, I should have got that dash.
I need like a Bayonetta, like Ghost Fist sort of like
thing.
Great. Yeah.
If you're gonna punch somebody like this at the end of the table, I think that person should at least be aware. That's all. That's all we're saying.
Busting down any walls in someone's living room, you happen to go for the fist bump and just breaks everything behind
exactly.
you.
Shatters the bones. Yeah, Kool-Aid Man in this is not gonna work, but I think they will change. I think that's on their mind. I think they will look at that.
Dude, another thing I want a UI indicator for the punch legendary, where you're like stacking damage for your next punch with your revolver.
Yeah,
I need some UI. I need some UI for that, and I think that could be a pretty nasty legendary.
Yeah,
well, we've mentioned Grok a couple times on the table, this table. We mentioned him a couple times on the desk. We got to talk about him when he was picked up, but Elevate, they came through and did Elevate things. I don't know if there's a better way to describe that set.
Did Elevate things. I mean, Grok, typically, when I thought there might be more variance on his talents, it seemed to be that it was really just a Maelstrom day, and Maelstrom Grok with the buff proves to be the most effective. I mean, you have the ranged healing, you have the flight, the ultimate is better by fact of that, but you also just have way more damage. He does what he was doing a little bit better and maybe filling a little bit of a different role. And we did see some of those duo supports as well that come in with a Grok Genos, the Grok Furia, the Furia Genos. And I think that's going to be kind of a signature of 1.4 as we move on in this meta.
Well, especially for the the flex guys like a SJP playing it, you're asking a lot less of that player when you're asking him to play Maelstrom.
Exactly.
It's just buffed Maelstrom and all the other buffs that Grok got. He got his flight, all that stuff. It's just way easier, I think, to execute. He fits more naturally into compositions you have been playing for a long time already up to this point.
Right.
Maybe we see it on PC. I don't know.
I just wonder if his staff, because that staff buff where you stay on your target longer and you get up to 30% more damage is a big deal, and it's playing, and it's not something we're talking about constantly, but it is playing a big factor as to why Grok is being effective. And I just wonder if that is going to be enough to switch him to the same legendaries that we've always seen him play with Healing Totem, with Totemic Ward, if he'll be able to go to Spirit's Domain. I saw a card Thunderlord, which I think is going to be seen more. Ammo is now more valuable for him because the longer you could stay at that max range of I've hit my peak, then that's more damage over the 10-second period or so. So I think we will see some deck adjustments. I think we'll see some things that allow Grok to stay interesting for the next few weeks.
The other thing that Elevate did that I think was spectacular, and we actually got to mark on it while it was happening, but that is the Victor they ran, and the way he just was never touched. It was GR, formerly like GR Crazy, who just was running loose. There was a point I think we counted like 4 clips that he got off in just the replay, let alone what could have been before that.
Yeah.
No one was looking at it.
I mean, no burst mode as well.
Yeah.
Another big kind of just surprise to me, but 1.4 has so many things to get used to. Can you figure them all out at the same time? And if you're getting used to the Grok on a lineup like this, are you then trying to get used to the Victor? Are you just going to say, let's just use this Grok, let's get him back in the lineup and keep standard to what we know works for Victor right now?
I feel like if we didn't see it on Frog Isle was the map I thought we would see it on, but even not there.
This also could be more of a talent that actually scales better with PC and the precision aim of that versus what we will see on console, because there is just that inability to be as precise in terms of headshots, and that's where this talent really pays off.
This is it was 320, I think, per headshot. If you could get the burst, you can hit about 900 every single time. So like, if you get something like that, and like we had mentioned in cast and just now, you get 3 of those in a row and you hit 2 bursts. That's 1,800 damage. Eevee's dead.
It's over. Speaking of Eevee, no Eevees ever.
No, ever. No, especially not on console.
I'm gonna make a presidential run here on Snow Globe Eevee coming back. We're gonna make Eevee great again, and I will be the president representing that.
I've been on the receiving end of some Snow Globe Eevees lately.
Yeah, what?
I've been on the receiving end of some Snow Globe Eevees.
Hey, yeah. I mean, listen, I'm gonna make it happen. You just watch out there. We're gonna get some Snow Globe Eevee stuff.
It's gonna be coming through.
It's gonna be coming through.
You ready for it? If it
I've
means
seen
that we
him
can
do
finally
this.
see Eevee, oh man.
Champion some terrible legendary, gets buffed. I told you all along, it's amazing.
I told you, it's been the best thing in the world.
It's fun. It's mad fun. I think it's a super fun legendary.
2 ults in a row. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
2 ults in a row.
Come to the camp.
Come to the camp. You get to zoom in, close up, get the
on
team
November.
Agenda pushed for the
agenda pushed. Make
November
sure to vote.
primaries.
Register to vote for the Snow Globe Eevee. I don't know what this
party.
is.
The
party.
The
Snow
I
Globe
feel
party.
like
there it is. The party. I'm the president of the Snow Globe party.
You're the president of the Snow Globe party. I'm okay with this. Yeah. Moving on to the other party, which was that last set. I was actually upset, and I will admit, because I saw a player do a player who's very dear to me because we had a lot of fun with it. Ball and Berry.
Oh, Ball and Berry
did not get to have the same performance this time around as we got to see the first
time. He kind of did. Like, his team got absolutely curb stomped, but he was still kind of sick. Like, he got top damage.
I mean, top damage on a Furia,
when you're getting dumpstered, is not easy to do on a support.
True.
On a Furia, it's a little easier.
Sure. But on a support in general, as you're getting dumpstered.
I agree.
I
balls.
missed the Jin Assault. I think that was what it is with that skin as well, because there was like it's not necessarily like
he doesn't get the luminary bonus damage anymore. He can't top damage his Genos like that as much.
And not everyone can.
The Furia seems to be his new jam, and I like it. I like it, man. I think Ball and Berry keeps making his brand bigger and bigger. He's
we helped him too.
Yeah. He's the new big baller brand.
We did some
Ball and Berry brand. He needs to call LeVar and get himself a deal.
The same brand, it's just 2 Bs.
Just
Ball and Berry.
It was really unfortunate for Game Over. Because it felt like Onii-Chaners in that entire set just did not let up. And of course, we got to see Swipers now in A playing with them, but it was just a ton of veterans on that roster coming through and just kind of doing what they do best. And I feel like NAPS4 has got a lot more versatility. It definitely doesn't feel like Elevate might be the only one in town now.
No, but I think Elevate are definitely the front runners for me. I mean, Shu was talking to me when he was here, and he was just talking about how confident he was with the squad that they were bringing together, and Sir James Parker and Woosh, and being able to continue to have that core and keep developing through a season where there are some roster changes. You got to watch out for him. You got to watch out for him. I know they were disappointed to not be as successful as they wanted to in this last LAN. So heading towards this split, I'm expecting good performances from
I wonder if they'll be more stable, I guess is the word, because normally there's a lot of roster changing.
Exactly.
I got to go to PS4, in this region if I want to make it, right, because my team got knocked out of it. So they do a lot of that just to, I think, make an easier road for themselves. But now, hopefully, there'll be more consistency and synergy built around the rosters. Because I feel like I've seen the same core 20 or so players in console just like flip-flopping on teams, just trying to make LAN.
I mean, that was one of the things. Elevate right now has become an NA PS4 team that was an NA Xbox team. Onslaught swapped over to an NA Xbox team with just the way things have been going. And some of that I feel like has followed like Sir James Parker as a player, but now with the league having a little bit more consistent play, is there anyone out of the teams today that you think is like bound for HRX, like they're guaranteed that spot, or do you think the competition's definitely closer?
As a team, it's too early for me to say, but I was impressed with his name he played Khan. It was
Kyle, whatever his name
Conrad.
Conrad.
Yes,
Conrad. It was Khanrad.
That's right, Conrad.
Yeah, he was impressive today.
He just mowed people down. Do you have
He did
anybody?
get Khan, though, so we'll have to see how he does when he doesn't get Khan.
For me, no. I don't. I don't.
Still up in the air?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, a lot of these teams, like, they've been around for a while, and so I'm excited to see if the league format is going to be changing that. But that is actually it pretty much for today. We went through all the games, all the sets that have come through, and now we just get to wait and see what happens next week, which I believe, fingers crossed, we will have Xbox games being played for that one and being able to at least broadcast. They did happen today still.
It did happen.
We just didn't get to watch any of them. So I'd be excited to see what that is. But thanks, everyone, for joining. And hopefully you'll tune in next week when we come back again for the Paladins Console League. My name has been Gormizer. It's been Rain Day, Pretty Hair. And we'll talk to you next time.